Senators Mastriano, Argyle, Scavello, and Ward. Representatives Stivers, Metcalf, Bryant, and Horowitz. Brave business owners, and my fellow freedom-loving Pennsylvanians. It is an honor to speak today and to share this stage with our honorable legislators and the dedicated patriots working to take back our great state. I am here to address you as a reopened group leader, but more importantly, as a parent. I know I am not alone in my belief that the smallest members of our communities have been impacted the hardest and the most unfairly by the social and emotional upheaval our severe governmental overreach has caused. I would like to address my comments this afternoon to two individuals who could not be here in attendance today, but whom I hope may be paying attention right now to the voices of several thousand unified Pennsylvanians. Governor Wolf, Dr. Levine, from the onset of this virus, we have been hearing your message that if we failed to comply by locking down, socially distancing, and masking ourselves, that we were grandma killers. However, under your emergency declaration, thousands of children across Pennsylvania actually have lost their grandparents.
Yes.
Not because of non-compliance with the mask mandate, but because our most medically vulnerable population, the very population who should have been first to be protected, were cruelly and needlessly exposed to this virus after infected patients were sent into nursing homes, placing the most vulnerable directly in harm's way. Nearly 4,800 nursing home residents lost their lives due to your actions. Over 70% of our state's death rate comes from the murder of our children's grandparents. But Governor Wolf, Dr. Levine, your gross mismanagement did not end there. In spite of mounting evidence and scientific data that children are neither at risk for contracting nor transmitting this virus, you closed their schools. With the closures, you caused ripples of damage throughout our communities. Thousands of children of low-income families relied on free lunch programs, and perhaps in the most severe cases, as their only meal that day. Thousands of children with learning disabilities and behavioral conditions lost their special education classes, which could not be replaced by distance learning. Students whose families could not afford devices for virtual learning were again left behind. Thousands of students for whom school is a safe place away from domestic and child abuse were now locked inside with their abusers while a vicious cycle of economic and emotional stress compounded their circumstances. Reported abuse cases dropped drastically, not because abuse stopped happening, but because there was no one to notice and report it.
That's right.
Governor Wolf, Dr. Levine, every semblance of normalcy was taken needlessly from our children's lives. You tore families and communities to shreds. Social interaction and family visits became our children's memories of a former era, as people were taught to fear their own relatives and grandchildren became public health risks.
Excellent.
Neighbors who once looked out for each other were encouraged to turn one another in for non-compliance with mandates.
Yes.
Empty playgrounds resembled crime scenes with politics littering our children's swings and slides. Libraries went dark, play spaces closed their doors. In an unexplainable and unfamiliar world, many of our children began having nightmares, grief, violent outbursts, regression, exaggerated fear of strangers, depression, and suicidal thoughts.
Yes.
Our children are not the face of this virus. They are its forgotten casualties.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Nobody cares about that.
I will never forget the day my 4-year-old son and I were out walking and met a police officer. He idolizes police officers. He was thrilled when the officer gave him a high five and lifted him to sit on his motorcycle. My son didn't realize the significance of the police officer's actions in the midst of the pandemic, but I did, and I held back tears of relief and gratitude. Later that day, he ran home to tell my husband about what had happened. He was a kind policeman, he said. He didn't even put mom in jail for not wearing a mask. My heart sank. In my mind, he had had a perfect morning. In his mind, I was about to be ripped away from him for not complying with the mask mandate. A police officer was no longer his idol, but someone to fear, someone who would take away his mother. Regardless of how we speak to and interact with our children, regardless of what we tell them, they are confused and they are deeply affected. Governor Wolf, Dr. Levine, this is what you are doing to our children.
Thank you.
Governor Wolf, do you remember when you called us cowards?
Yes.
We have not forgotten. We will never forget. Your hypocrisy has never been lost on us, and we refuse to comply with your arbitrary and unscientific mandates.
He's the coward.
Our community in Bucks County has stood proudly in defiance united under our Reopen Rocks group to fight the new normal and the erosion of our liberties by restoring as much as possible of what had been taken. As parents, we refuse to tolerate the unfair policies which targeted our children. We occupied playground after playground, removing the plastic that covered the structures and letting our healthy children Our local active civil disobedience were met with resistance at every turn, from neighbors, municipalities, and even police departments, but we persisted. Ultimately, Bucks County returned our rightful playgrounds to our children as a direct result of our small group's unrelenting efforts. For every step forward, we seem to push two steps backward. No sooner would we celebrate a victory than a new policy would set us back. On July 1st came the public mask mandate, and with it, further restrictions and arbitrary enforcement. Once again, our children were targeted, this time under a new mask mandate, again unsubstantiated by even minimal science or basic evidence. We now stand in the midst of our hardest battle yet, the fight to keep severe and restrictive measures out of our public schools this September.
That's right. Yes. That's it.
Our children have never been health threats, but according to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, Dr. Levine's mask mandate applies to all students beginning at the age of 2. I and the leadership for PFME, Pennsylvanians for Maskless Education, believe firmly this is the most severe affront yet to our children's health and well-being. There is not a single study to support the universal masking of children, not a shred of scientific evidence that it is medically safe to mask toddlers, preschoolers, or school-age children. There is zero conclusive evidence that masking children is an effective practice in mitigating viral transmission and infection. Not safe, not effective. Here I stand to tell you that in the absence of reliable evidence, we will not comply. We will not consent to a generation of impressionable minds being taught to believe they are potentially too lethal to hold another child's hands, or too high risk for a hug. We will not ignore or downplay the unknown and potentially immense risk of psychological harm or trauma caused by masking our children. Our children are at greater risk for failing to develop adequate and appropriate comprehension of language, speech, facial expressions, and emotions than they are of contracting this virus. Our children are at greater risk for encountering significant gaps in their education or facing behavioral obstacles due to being masked than they are becoming sick. Perhaps of greatest importance, face masks may set the precedent that bodily autonomy is not a priority.
Correct.
That consent is meaningless. And that the duty to make adults comfortable precedes their own comfort.
That's right.
In classrooms, places of learning, free thinking should be promoted, and the verbalizations of expanding minds should be encouraged. Our children will not be silenced and muzzled. They will not be taught that any of this is a normal way to treat disease or human interaction. They will never be guinea pigs in a disturbing social experiment, the ramifications of which we cannot begin to imagine. We must follow the science and protect our children from harmful, dangerous threats to their physical and mental well-being. We must stand united in demanding policies that are based upon facts and have our best interests in mind. We must stand united in demanding real leadership for our great state of Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf, Dr. Levine, we do not need you to step in and raise our children.
Correct.
That's right.
You do not and never will own them.
Especially the me.
They do not belong to you. We want as free people. We teach our children to do the same. President Reagan once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free. Our children deserve our every last breath in this fight for their lives. Letting them down is not an option. All of our futures depend on it. God bless our great legislators who stand with us and for us. God bless our great state of virtue, liberty, and independence. God bless our great president and our great nation of the United States. And God bless our children. Thank you.
I hope we don't take that seriously. Okay, up next.